Hello and welcome. You're watching Times Now and I'm Shivangi Mishra. We have a whole lot packed for you. We're starting a bulletin with the breaking news coming in at this hour. We're learning a day after US Supreme Court ruling, which was termed as a setback for US President Donald Trump. Now Trump has decided to raise the global tariff from 10% to 15%. He has, of course, called the Supreme Court ruling ridiculous, and he has posted on Truth Social, and I quote, based on a thorough, detailed and complete review of the ridiculous, poorly written and extraordinarily anti-American decision on tariff issued yesterday after many months of contemplation by the United States, Supreme Court let the statement serve to represent that I, as President of United States of America, will impose 15% tariff effective immediately, raising the 10% worldwide tariff on country. So essentially, Trump has made the announcement. Just yesterday, we saw after the US Supreme Court ruling against Donald Trump, now Trump has decided to increase the global tariff from 10% to 15%. I'm being joined by my colleague Rishabh to explain in detail the context of all this development. Rishabh, just yesterday we saw Trump in his late night presser. He announced that the worldwide tariff will be 10%, and today in an announcement, now Trump has announced that the 10% tariff will be increased to 15%.
Well, Shivangi, this has become a game of stars. Every day, when Trump wakes up, there is a new thing to report on. As we are talking, while the governments were still contemplating to understand or to figure out the riddle of this new tariff that has been imposed, the numbers have changed. Remember, earlier the tariff that were slapped against countries under 232 section was termed unconstitutional and overreach by the Supreme Court of the United States yesterday. So after that, what we got to know that now Trump has brought in section 120 of executive power that gives him 150 days to get any order passed by the Congress, and by that, by the virtue of section 120, Trump got in the executive order imposing 10% tariff. Went to sleep, woke up with a new order saying that 10 doesn't look good. Now it's 15. So now tomorrow on Sunday, half of the world would be now again doing the maths that how much of tariff comes on them. Today only at various meetings where there were exporters, businessmen and others, we were discussing, and many of them were very confused at whether things will change or not. When will this tariff come into effect? If it is 150 days, what happens after 150 days? And so on and so forth. Now that there's a new number that has come in again, we'll have to wait for governments to reply that how they are taking it. Every morning there is a new order coming in from Washington.
Absolutely, there's a new order coming in from Washington every morning, and now we have another quote-unquote diktat from Donald Trump, where he has raised the global tariff from 10% to 15%. Rishabh, do stay on with us. We are being joined by Hina Gambhir, who will take us through the details. Hina, just yesterday, we were all waiting for the much-awaited presser, and after that presser, we got to know, okay, Donald Trump has announced that the global tariff will be imposed to 10%, and today, in another post, Trump has decided to increase the global tariff to 15%.
Well, absolutely. And it's getting, chaotic. That's the word I would like to use, because yesterday when the Supreme Court ruling came out, wherein his reciprocal tariffs were termed unconstitutional by the top court in the United States of America, we thought, what will happen to our trade deal that India is finalizing with the United States of America. And then we have the press conference, by US President Donald Trump, wherein he announced that he still has powers as the president to impose 10% global tariffs. That's what he did. Then there was a clarification that came from the White House this morning, clarifying that India is going to face 10% tariff instead of 18% that was agreed upon as per the interim framework. And now we have this post on Truth Social, wherein Donald Trump firstly has again criticized the Supreme Court ruling. He has called it absolutely ridiculous. ridiculous. He has said that the entire review is ridiculous. It's poorly written, and he has said that he still has the powers as the president to impose tariffs, and hence he is increasing the global tariff number from 10% to 15%. Now, this is very, very significant. Also, to safeguard his, decision this time, he has mentioned in the post also that this is legally permissible. It is fully allowed, which means he has looked at the law this time very, very carefully, and he has understood that this is the percentage perhaps that's not going to be overturned by the Supreme Court in the United States of America. So maybe this is the level that one can go ahead with, and that's the reason why he has now said effective immediately he's going to increase the global tariff level from 10% to 15%. It's creating a lot of confusion among companies, among countries. Indian government is studying the matter very, very carefully. It's looking at the developments very, very carefully as well, because nobody really knows what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow again around the same time, we might just have Donald Trump coming up and saying, okay, from 15%, it's back to 25%. Remember what was happening last year also, the way tariff kept on increasing. So it's a bit confusing. So we'll have to wait and see what happens next, what comes out of the White House tomorrow.
Right, Hina, there's much uncertainty when it comes to Mr. Donald Trump. In fact, we have Patikrit Pain, geopolitical analyst, joining us on the broadcast. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Times Now. We were just breaking this information that Trump has raised the global tariff to 15%, and he has said in his post that this 15% tariff is allowed and it is legally tested. Your first reaction on this?
Well, the 1974 clause that he is now using for imposing the tariff, the limit is 15%. So he can put it up till 15%, but not beyond 15%. And that too, the validity of it is for 150 days only. And after that, he would have to review it, or he would have to take congressional, sanctions for it. Secondly, it is a reality that his discretionary powers to indiscriminately use the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, under which he was imposing sanctions, imposing tariffs without any limits on anybody, whoever he felt like, that is gone. So in this case, the maximum limit is 15%. He can still use, certain clauses like the National Security Clause or the Pro-1 National, anti-competitive, trade activities.
Right.
Those things he can still use under Section 232 and 301, but there are limitations to that.
All
he
right.
cannot indiscriminately use it and put anything he feels like, as he was doing in the past.
But, my question is, Patikrit Pain, why did he not announce 15% yesterday only?
No, because he was not aware, perhaps. That is how he is. It is entirely his advisors who keep on giving him all kinds of ideas.
Okay.
And that's why he is abusing and criticizing the Supreme Court without understanding that those clauses which he was using for all that indiscriminate use
All
of
right.
the tariff can only be used for what you call
All
emergency purpose. There is no emergency right now.
All right, Mr. Patikrit Pain, appreciate you speaking with us here on Times Now. We have Ambassador KP Fabian also joining us live right now. Good evening, sir. Thank you for speaking with us here on Times Now. Your first reaction to this new post by Donald Trump. Now, suddenly he has decided to increase the global tariff rate from 10% that he announced less than 24 hours ago to 15%.
Yes, this was to be expected because that is his style. Trump is acting without professional advice. He has appointed people more for loyalty and, obedience, rather than giving him proper intellectual support and recommendation. That's point number one. Point number two is that, and I've been saying this for a long time, when on 2nd April last year, Trump announced the so-called Liberation Day and announced tariffs on the rest of the world, the major economies, European Union, India, Japan, China, and Canada and others, should have discreetly held top-secret conversations and come to an agreement that if Trump is imposing X percent, then we shall unitedly retaliate by imposing 3x% on America. That should have been done, but that was not done. So Trump was able to negotiate individually, whether it's European Union or anybody else, and use his clout and unpredictability to impose tariffs which are absolutely unjust. I wish the rest of the world will wake up and see how to tackle Trump, who is a bully.
Right, Mr. Fabian, just like you were mentioning, my other question would be that does this move by the US President Donald Trump somewhere or the other strengthen his political position with supporters, or does it risk economic backlash at home or abroad?
Quite possible that there will be a backlash because I was reading on Reuters that even his aides are telling him, now you better focus on the election, the midterms. Leave everything else. And, not only that Supreme Court verdict saying that he had exceeded his powers. Now, he had, or Treasury had got $175 billion collected as these tariffs. And, of course, the Supreme Court did not say that the money had to be returned. But the companies which approached the court and the Democratic 12 states, I think, they are going to ask the Supreme Court, now why the money should be returned. So this is not the end of the story.
Right, Mr. KB Fabian, thank you so much for speaking 2 times now. Appreciate your time. I'm being joined by my colleague Srinjoy in the broadcast here. Srinjoy, we were still assessing the impact of the announcement which Donald Trump made yesterday, where he imposed where he announced 10% global tariff, and now today in another post he has increased the 10% global tariff to 15%.
Yes, it's a change of policy by the day. And depending on how he feels, clearly, or who has said what to him. But at this point, it is 15%. Now, the whole problem is that all this is going to be very confusing for not only people in other countries, but also businesses in America. What are they going to say? That if tariff is suddenly increased to 15%, then naturally the prices they will charge to customers in America will be that much higher, 5% higher. Now look at India. It started with 25%, then it became 50%, then it became 18%, then it became 10%. Now it is 15%. I mean, this is truly confusing. So how this will all end, we don't know. And now, if someone approaches the Supreme Court and appeals against this 15% tariff, what will the Supreme Court say? That's the other issue that has to be looked at.
Right, Srinjoy, do stay on with us. We also have Hina on the broadcast. Yeah, Hina, we knew that Donald Trump had options with him. He could turn the Supreme Court ruling, but just in 24 hours. It took 24 hours to overturn that decision, and he's here. Absolutely. With 5% extra tariff.
Yes, I think Pratikrit Pine was right on that aspect, because I asked him exactly that question. I mean, he could have announced 15% yesterday only, but he didn't. Maybe he wasn't really aware of what all could be announced under Section 122. Now, let me also take this point across to Srinjoy Chaudhary, our colleague. Srinjoy, you're making a very interesting point, and I also want to understand from you, like, here in this case, President Trump invoked Section 122, which still gives the president powers to impose tariffs up to 15%. But then that is a temporary measure. It can only happen for 150 days. Then the matter will have to go to US Congress. So again, it's a period of uncertainty that we are looking at.
Yes, it is uncertain for everybody. First of all, think of India. It is uncertain for India, because suddenly 18 has become 50, has become 18, and then 10, and now 15. The exporters in India are going to ask themselves, what will we charge next month? Because by next month, there could be a different issue there. The other point is for American consumers. they will be feeling very confused because the same product may be $100 one day, $110 another day, $115 another day. And what about the people who are selling the stuff? That would be confusing for them too. They wouldn't know what to charge and when to charge. So all of this is leading to a huge, humongous problem, not just for people who are exporting goods from all parts of the world, but the American consumer, the American buyer. He or she doesn't know what to buy at what price.
Absolutely. It is getting a bit chaotic, a bit messy, and we'll have to see how the government really responds. Thank you very much, Ranjoy, for the moment for joining us. Shubhangi, now clearly we'll have to just wait for another order to come from the White House, and also we'll have to be looking forward to what the government here in India will have to say. Remember, the first statement came out today from the Indian government side, wherein the Indian government, the Ministry of Commerce, mentioned that they are looking at the developments very, very closely and what the developments really mean for India. Because remember, for India, it's a very, very critical moment. Both the leaders, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump, have announced that there's going to be a deal between India and the United States of America. There's already an interim framework that we have. Negotiations are moving quite fast. So amidst all of this, too much of confusion happening in Washington. So, we'll have to just wait and see what happens next. But for exporters, uncertain times, clearly. Over to you, Shubhangi.
Right, Hina, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. It is certainly a time of a lot of uncertainty because we were still assessing the situation after that announcement, after Trump's pressure. And remember, viewers, especially Section 122 is the focus right now, because remember, the Supreme Court ruled that IEEPA does not give the president the power to levy tariff. And especially Section 122 is different because it clearly allows temporary import charges, but only for a limited time at limited rate, just how my colleague Hina was mentioning. And the tariffs under Section 122 now it will automatically end after 150 days unless Congress votes to extend them. However, viewers, now trade experts say that a president could let the tariffs expire and then possibly bring them back again by declaring a new balance of payments emergency. So the focus here, of course, is Section 122, which Donald Trump has used. And now the breaking news at this point in time is that Trump has decided to increase the global tariff from 10% to 15%.